They say a week is a long time in football, and that means 7 years is practically an eternity. 7 years ago, in the 2012-13 season, Manchester United won the Premier League, Liverpool finished just one place above West Brom, and Wolves were relegated down into League One. You don't need me to tell you that Wolves in our Europa League side, Liverpool, look like the champions-elect, and Manchester United's season is going about as smoothly as a lift home off a Derby County player after a team night out. Now, I should point out that when I say a team's best player 7 years ago, that is my personal opinion. In the vast majority of cases, I would suggest it's a pretty obvious choice, and in most cases, the player was also the team's player of the season, but there are some that required a certain degree of input from myself. To be clear, I'm going to look at every current Premier League team's best player 7 years ago, not every Premier League club 7 years ago's best player 7 years ago. Here is every Premier League team's best player 7 years ago. Where are they now? Santi Cazorla, Villarreal. We're going in alphabetical order in terms of the club's name, which means we start with Arsenal. The likes of Theo Walcott and Mikel Arteta had excellent seasons at the Emirates in 2012-13, but Santi Cazorla was the Gunners' outstanding player. In his first year at the club following a £10 million move from Malaga, it quickly became clear that Arsene Wenger had pulled off a remarkable piece of business. Along with Juan Mata at Chelsea and David Silva at Man City, Spanish playmakers were pulling all the strings in the Premier League this season, and Cazorla had a combined total of 24 goals and assists from 38 Premier League games. The little magician saw his Arsenal career curtailed by injuries in 2018, but he has since made a staggering return to form at Villarreal, where he was tremendous last season. Christian Benteke, Crystal Palace. Aston Villa were a little bit all over the place during the 2012-13 Premier League season, getting thrashed 8-0 by Chelsea, but also recording a 6-1 win over Sunderland in the same campaign. Thankfully for Paul Lambert, they had the goals of Christian Benteke to rely on to keep their heads above the water. He may have floundered with all the accuracy of a North Korean missile over the last couple of seasons, but back in his Villa days, one ought not forget how prolific the Belgian was. Up until his move to Liverpool, the question of who was better between Romelu Lukaku and Christian Benteke wasn't a daft one. The big Belgian bagged 49 goals in 101 games for Villa, and he came fourth, ahead of Lukaku, in the Premier League scoring charts in 2012-13. Benteke struggled following his move to Liverpool, and after a break first season, he has been totally out of sorts at Crystal Palace. Benteke has scored just 4 goals in 57 games since the start of the 2017-18 season. Mark Pugh, Queen's Park Rangers. 7 years ago, AFC Bournemouth were playing in League One. Manager Eddie Howe returned to Dean Court in October 7 years ago to this very day in fact, and he would guide the Cherries 2 promotions to the Championship in his first season back. Simon Francis, Harry Arter and Tommy Elphick all impressed, as did top scorer Brett Pittman, but arguably the club's finest player was Mark Pugh. Always a smart operator, Pugh joined Bournemouth in 2010, and he only departed in the summer just gone. Good on the ball and thoughtful when disposing of it, Pugh probably would have been playing at Premier League level earlier had he been a bit quicker. Following 9 years on the South Coast and a half-season loan move to Hull City, the 32-year-old joined the Queen's Park Rangers in the July just gone. Liam Bridcut, Bolton Wanderers. There are often players who get a whole load of fanfare that I find a tad premature and justified, but I must admit Liam Bridcut was one player who looked to be a Premier League player in all but name when he was starting for Brighton. The Seagulls finished 4th in the Championship in the 2012-13 season, and Liam Bridcut was undoubtedly their star man. The Scottish international did become a Premier League player 6 months later when he was signed by former Brighton boss Gus Poyet at Sunderland. However, Bridcut couldn't replicate his South Coast form in the North East and soon found himself back in the Championship with Leeds. The 30-year-old was one of 9 players to join Bolton Wanderers on transfer deadline day, arriving on loan from Nottingham Forest, and he has since been named as the Trotters' captain. Charlie Austin, West Brom. The 2012-13 campaign was a transitional one for Burnley, who saw the arrival of Sean Dyche and an 11th place finish in the Championship. Personally, I think a good case could be made for Kieran Trippier, who already looked brilliant at this stage, but if you'd ask anyone who was Burnley's star man 7 years ago, they would have said Charlie Austin. The former non-league marksman bagged 28 goals in all competitions, immediately preceding a big money move to Queen's Park Rangers. Following 4 seasons in the Premier League with Southampton, Austin joined Championship side West Brom over the summer, where he has since scored 2 goals in 8 games so far this season. Juan Mata, Manchester United. Off the back of a Champions League winning campaign, Chelsea made a difficult start to the 2012-13 season. Roberto Di Matteo was dismissed and replaced by Rafa Benitez, who guided the Blues to a 3rd place finish in the Premier League and a Europa League title. Juan Mata was Chelsea's Player of the Year as they won consecutive European titles, and he was particularly outstanding in the 2012-13 season. The Spaniard bagged 20 goals in all competitions, as well as topping the Premier League's assist charts. There was amazement from most then when Jose Mourinho came in and seemingly didn't fancy Mata, letting him join rivals Manchester United the following January. We haven't really seen the best of Mata since then in a United team that has never really been built around him. Glenn Murray, Brighton. Crystal Palace won promotion to the Premier League by the playoffs in the 2012-13 season, and Ian Holloway had a number of star performers. A Manchester United-bound Wilfried Zaha was a match winner, Mile Jedinak won the Eagles Player of the Year award, but Glenn Murray scored 30 goals in 42 league games, so I find it difficult to go for anyone else. The late bloomer now plays for Palace's unusual rivals Brighton and Hove Albion, where the 36-year-old has scored 53 goals in 153 games. Leighton Baines, Everton. The first player in this video still playing for the club where they were the best players 7 years ago, there can be few doubts about Everton's best player back in 2012. Not only was Baines Everton's Player of the Year in 2012 and 2013, he also made the PFA Team of the Year for the only 2 times in his career. He scored 7 goals in all competitions and made 5 assists in the 2012-13 Premier League season alone, and 7 years on, he is still with the Toffees. Baines is now being phased out of the Everton side by Luca Digne, but he is still one of the club's finest players of the modern era. Wes Morgan, Leicester City. Like the proverbial London buses, you weigh an age for 2 players still at the club they were starring for 7 years ago, and then you get 2 in a row. The 2012-13 season was Wes Morgan's first full season at Leicester, having joined the club from Nottingham Forest the previous January. He won both the Foxes Player and Players Player of the Season awards as the club reached the playoffs, but fell in dramatic style in the semi-finals to Watford. Morgan and Leicester did win promotion the following season, however, and famously won an improbable Premier League title in 2015. Morgan is 35 now and less of an automatic selection at the King Power Stadium, but the Jamaican international is still the Foxes club captain. Luis Suarez, Barcelona. Luis Suarez had 2 truly outstanding seasons at Liverpool, and the 2012-13 season was the first of those 2. The Uruguayan superstar scored 30 goals in 44 games in all competitions, picking up Liverpool's Player of the Season award and making the PFA Team of the Year. He was even more impressive the following season, as Brendan Rodgers' men came within inches of winning a Premier League title, before Suarez departed for Barcelona. Since arriving in Catalonia, Suarez has scored 183 goals in 255 games, firmly establishing himself as one of the finest centre-forwards of his generation. David Silva, Manchester City. Manchester City may have finished second in the 2012-13 Premier League table, but it was a disappointing campaign on an individual level for a number of their star men. Carlos Tevez scored 14 Premier League goals, Sergio Aguero scored 12, and Yaya Toure wasn't quite at his scintillating best. Pablo Zabaleta actually won City's Player of the Year award and made the PFA Team of the Year, but I refuse to say that he was the best player at Man City 7 years ago. One man whose form has almost never wavered at the Etihad is David Silva. The Spaniard recorded 9 Premier League assists and kept things ticking as he always does. 7 years on, he is still at the club, having become arguably Man City's greatest ever player, but he has said this season will be his last with the club. Robin van Persie, retired. Manchester United were in their final season under the stewardship of Sir Alex Ferguson 7 years ago, and perhaps it should come as no surprise that they haven't won a Premier League title since. They haven't even come close, in fact, and they've never looked further away than they do now, but that's another matter for another time. The 2012-13 season was Robin van Persie's first at Old Trafford, having arrived from Arsenal, and he was utterly devastating. He scored 30 goals, he won the Premier League Golden Boot for the 2nd consecutive season, and he scored the BBC Goal of the Season. After leaving United, Van Persie turned out for Fenerbahce and then returned to Feyenoord, retiring with his boyhood club earlier this year. Yohan Cabaye, St Etienne. Yohan Cabaye only spent 2.5 seasons at St James's Park, but he was fantastic for the Magpies. The club finished 5th in the Premier League in his debut campaign, and whilst they slumped all the way down to 16th in 2012-13, Cabaye was one of the few who maintained his high standards. 6 months later, he joined PSG before returning to the Premier League with Crystal Palace. Cabaye joined Al Nassr in the summer of 2018, but after a season in the United Arab Emirates, the Frenchman returned to Europe to sign for St Etienne in August. Sebastian Basson, Volos. Norwich City put in a really good showing in the 2012-13 Premier League season, finishing in 11th place under Chris Hughton. French-born Cameroonian international Sebastian Basson was the Canaries' standout performer in his debut campaign at Carrow Road, having joined Norwich from Tottenham. things have gone a bit downhill for Basong over the last few years, spending a year out of the game between 2017 and 2018, returning to action with Peterborough United in League One. The centre-back made just one appearance for the Posh last season, moving on to sign for recently promoted Greek Super League side Volos in the summer. Harry Maguire, Manchester United. Sheffield United finished 5th in League One in the 2012-13 season, losing in the playoffs to Yeovil Town. Local lad Harry Maguire spent 3 seasons as a regular fixture in the Blades team, and he won the Sheffield United Player of the Season award in all 3 of them. He broke into the England under-21 side 7 years ago, and most Blades fans anticipated that Maguire may move on to bigger and better things. He joined FA Cup finalist Hull City in 2014, where he took a couple of seasons to settle in before winning the Tigers Player of the Season award too. Then came a move to Leicester, where Maguire won the Player of the Year award at a third club, as well as becoming a full England international. He became the most expensive defender of all time in the summer just gone in a move to Manchester United, and he's now one of the first names on Gareth Southgate's England team sheet. Morgan Schneiderlin, Everton. The 2012-13 season was Southampton's first season back in the Premier League, and after the unpopular dismissal of Nigel Adkins, incoming boss Mauricio Pochettino guided the Saints to safety. Ricky Lambert scored 15 goals and Adam Lallana impressed as usual, but it was Morgan Schneiderlin who deservedly scooped up the Player of the Season award at the Saints' end-of-season award ceremony. The Frenchman continued to impress over the next couple of seasons, even breaking into the French national team, before a £25 million move to Manchester United. A potential £24 million switch to Everton arrived just 18 months later, but Schneiderlin has been generally underwhelming at Goodison Park. Gareth Bale, Real Madrid. There can be few doubts about who Tottenham's starman was in the 2012-13 season. In his final season with the club, Gareth Bale looked absolutely unstoppable. He scored 26 goals in all competitions from the right flank, winning Tottenham's Player of the Year award and beating Luis Suarez and Robin van Persie to be crowned Premier League Player of the Year as well. Bale left Tottenham in the summer of 2013 in close to, if not the most expensive transfer ever at the time, signing for Spanish giants Real Madrid. Bale has scored 104 goals in 238 games for Real, winning 13 trophies, which include 4 Champions Leagues, and he has often been pivotal in those successes. Nevertheless, he has had numerous injury struggles, and just when it was hoped that he would become that player Real could hang their hat upon following Cristiano Ronaldo's departure, the Welshman had probably his worst season at the Bernabeu. ALMEN ABDI, free agent. Strike partnership Mate Vida and Troy Deeney both hit 20 plus goals for Watford in the 2012-13 season as the Hornets finished third, having just missed out on automatic promotion and then fell at the final hurdle to Crystal Palace in the playoff final at Wembley. Despite those two forming an excellent partnership, it was ALMEN ABDI who picked up Watford's Player of the Year award, and I would say deservedly so. Abdi was one of a number of players starring for Watford on loan from Udinese, and the Swiss international was their chief creator in midfield. He eventually won promotion at Vicarage Road in 2015, but survived just a single season in the Premier League before being sold to Sheffield Wednesday. Abdi left Wednesday at the end of last season, and the 32-year-old is still a free agent at the time of recording. UCS Galiman, unattached coach. Sam Allardyce guided West Ham to a very comfortable 10th place finish in their first season back in the Premier League in 2012-13, and it was centre-back Winston Reid who would win the Hammer of the Year award, whilst Kevin Nolan was the club's top scorer. The pick of the bunch for me at the time, though, was UCS Galiman, who I have long considered to be a very underrated goalkeeper and one of the finest we have seen on these shores in the Premier League era. The Finnish shot-stopper was reunited with Allardyce following 15 years at Bolton Wanderers in 2012, but he showed few signs of decline. He kept West Ham in a number of games in his last season as a first-team regular at that level, and the 44-year-old is currently out of work, having previously served as Wrexham's goalkeeping coach. Bakary Sakho, Paphos. I mentioned in the introduction that Wolves were relegated from the Championship into League One in the 2012-13 season, and that was their second consecutive relegation, having been a Premier League side the year before. During a pretty bleak period, Bakary Sakho provided a rare bit of excitement and optimism for fans at Molineux. I should mention Silva and Ebanks-Blake, who bagged a creditable 14 goals for the relegated side, but it was Sakho who rightly picked up the Wolves Player of the Year award. He later formed one-third of a really exciting attacking trio alongside Nua Dicko and Benakofobe at Molineux, but all three have since left the club. Sakho joined Crystal Palace having run down his contract at Wolves, but he never really got a look in for the Eagles, and he recently signed for Paphos in the Cypriot First Division. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, feel free to give the video a like if you enjoyed it, in fact please do, and make sure you're subscribed to HITC Sevens, and head over to www.englandsgreatestdefender.com to have your mind blown by the best football book ever written.